What's up? Been getting a lot of messages from you guys about my thoughts on the Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley matchup. Of course, they're squaring off for the second time here tonight. I'm going to briefly just point out a couple things that crossed my mind in regards to this fight, which way I'm leaning, and my thoughts on the betting line as well. Of course, Jake Paul wins the first time around via decision. And what was actually a split decision, I do believe, right? One of these judges actually gave the fight to Woodley. I thought that was a little off there. Of course, Woodley had some moments in that first fight. Woodley did kind of have Paul dangling on the ropes there. But if you really rewatch that fight, I mean, he wasn't really landing any devastating shots there. I think it was a little bit more so that Paul was not conditioned as properly as he should be. Going into these fights, he wants to be known as this big-time boxer. Of course, we all know it's a little bit of a circus show, but I mean, he's going to have to condition himself a little bit more so. Otherwise, when people are paying for these fights and we're all talking about these fights, we're going to have a bad taste in our mouths after we see performances like that. I mean, he has to be in shape here. Some things that are pointing towards his direction. He was actually preparing for this fight or for this date for some time, whereas Woodley did take this fight on short notice. I think that's a major factor for Paul. Also, I still am a believer that if this fight goes to the judges' scorecards, even though one of the judges gave it to Woodley last time, I think that was something that was a little fishy. I think it was more so for show. I still feel that the judges are going to side with Paul. He's the cash cow. We've seen it in these types of boxing events. The guy that's bringing all the money, that's bringing all the eyes to the show, tends to get those decisions constantly. So I say if this fight goes to a decision, even if Woodley was to slightly eke this fight out, I still think it favors Paul in a major way. But besides all that, I believe that Jake Paul should have more growth in his boxing game since the last fight compared to Woodley. Woodley may just be new to this whole boxing scene, but don't get it twisted. Woodley has been working his boxing for years, okay? He was a Division I wrestler that worked his way into the MMA scene, and he's a guy that favored his hands heavily. Woodley was never a guy that was throwing spinning back fist and throwing head kicks that much. I mean, yeah, he'll throw some leg kicks here and there, some low kicks, but don't get it twisted. He's a guy that's been sharpening his boxing for years. So in my opinion, his boxing is really going to be as good as it was in that last fight, in my opinion. Maybe it gets a little bit better, maybe slightly better, being that he might be a little bit more comfortable. But with a guy like Paul, I expect to see more growth from him, being that this guy didn't really have any experience in the fight game until just recently. I believe he wrestled a little bit, but nothing really as far as the striking goes there. So I expect Paul to be a little bit more sharp there than the last fight. And I'm going to edge Jake Paul to win the fight once again. Now, as far as the betting line goes, he's in that mid minus 200 range as a favorite. I'm not really crazy about it, just from how he looked from a condition standpoint in the last fight, how he slowed down so much, and I don't doubt that Woodley's extremely motivated for this fight. He has the clause in the contract where if he gets the finish, he makes an additional $500,000. That's nothing to look over, man. That's some serious money there. So I know Woodley is motivated here, but I got to go with Jake Paul via decision to get it done. All right, guys, good luck and be careful with that fight because it's a tricky one and not necessarily one that I recommend that you play around with. All right, guys, signing out, Teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.